way, and I really like this. We would like to approach charity in a different way, not necessarily material distribution of items and food and other things that have been part of the humanitarian responses in South Sudan. But we also thought, why not do knowledge charity? So what we are doing here is basically sharing knowledge. As you have seen, the registration was basically free. It's accessible to anyone who would really click on the link. And this is what we've been doing now for a while. In the Tukul School, we started way back as long time ago as the COVID time. And we also said, okay, why not empower ourselves with the skills that we have? We are not experts in all fields, but we have some knowledge in some of this. So if you have skills in, let's say, finance, grant writing, and all that, whatever skill you have, human resource, whatever, you feel free to share with us, and you will have the floor. So basically, this is how we would want to empower one another. And it's already working because also we have chosen other parts of, other medium of doing this, like using the Zoom that we have here right now. We also use the same in the Tukul School because we believe this is more convenient than us meeting at Pyramid Hotel to do this kind of training. All right. So I really appreciate the opportunity that has been granted to me to share my experiences around grant writing. My name is John Ngong. I do grant writing for a living. Like, that's not a joke, guys. Okay. So I've been doing this now for about 6 years, and I've done it also at different capacities. But I'm also passionate about grant writing. I really like the position to see design projects and then impact people's lives. That is where I find my passion. But I'm also interested, even academically, I'm doing a research on factors actually that contribute to the win rate of a grant proposal. So this is already becoming part of my life in the academic world, in the professional, and this is all the experience I have right now. So I am really happy that I have the opportunity to share what I have with you. This session is going to be for 2 days. So you can see the overall topic is grant writing, the power of compelling project proposals. And we have part 1 today. So what we will do today is look at the components of a grant proposal. We'll just dive into what a grant proposal would look like and what are the components that would make up a grant proposal. But tomorrow, in part 2, we will look at what Bida would call now mastering. Looking at, as a grant writer, maybe what skill sets should you have? How do you even launch your proposals? What are the tools that you will need to have? Like, let's say, how do you develop a grant proposal development plan? And also tricks to involve people, because grant writing, by the way, is a collaborative effort. You don't sit in your own room with a lot of AC in, and then you are taking your tea and you are designing proposals. No, there's a unique skill sets, because you will need to work with so many people. You will need to work with technical experts. You also need to work with finance. You also need to work with procurement. You also need to work with human resource, all these people. How do you bring them together? So that's the part for tomorrow. But today, we're just looking at the components of the grant proposal. As we will proceed, if you would like to have any thoughts, feel free to drop all that in the chat, but then we'll come back to all this later. It's all good. And if that's the case, then we can dive into the session straight away. I'm sharing my screen, so I'll miss your faces, guys. I'll only be looking at my screen, unfortunately. But I will not be looking at it. So these are the topics that we look at when we look at a grant proposal. Quick overview. We will look at the summary of that particular proposal you are writing, overall context, needs assessment, objectives, or result statement, and then maybe your implementation approach, something like budget, very important, monitoring and evaluation plan, accountability to people who are affected, and then cross-cutting themes, your work plan, and maybe other components that may be required in that particular call. All right. So this is a generic layout of what a grant proposal will look like, but I'm sure it's also unique based on the needs of a donor, based on the template you are using, maybe based on what you're comfortable with as a grant writer, right? So, and maybe what you would want to look at as an organization. Yeah, so basically this is just like a generic layout, but it could be as unique as it could be with the opportunities at hand. All right, so let me ask a question maybe before we go into this. Do we have people in this room who have done like who have been involved in a proposal writing exercise? Give me a reaction. It could be a thumb up, it could be a smiling face, could be anything. Yep, I see a hand raised from, okay, unfortunately it's appearing as Samsung. Look at you, let me look at you guys. All right, I get a feedback that it's a bit fast. I'll slow down. Actually, I'm actually fast even when I'm walking. So that's a good observation, Togo. I like that. Yeah, so anyone who might have been involved in the grant writing, you have been consulted or you have contributed in part or something. Do we also have people who have been writing grants? Yep, maybe I see one thumb up here. Yeah. Do we also have anyone who is like doing grant writing as their full-time job? Maybe there could be some. Yeah, as usual, is raising his hand, or is that a club? Yep. And anyone else? Okay, it's fine. So we will go as slowly as possible, but we will also maybe tone down our language a bit based on what I'm seeing here in the room. All right, so let's go then into the components of a grant proposal. So we will define the grant proposal, and we will also look at what grant writing is. Most times when we make proposals to our friends, to our parents, or even to donors, right? Because a proposal is basically me saying, hey, can we attend this session today? And you have a lot of things that are competing. You'll be like, I don't have the time for it. What will I get out of it? And what value does it bring to me? And you'll be considering all those things. But then I'll come and sell the idea to you and say, hey, if you attend this session, you might actually enhance your skills in grant writing and blah, blah. You'll be like, oh, okay, I'm in for it. You know, you have given it your time, you have given in, which is a major resource. And then you've given it already your investment, you know, in form of time that you will spend here, maybe your hopes and energy, I would say. This is the same way you do a grant proposal to a donor. Basically, you tell a donor, hey, I would like to have you fund this activity, a project, an initiative, or an idea, and this is what it will look like. So if you convince them, your proposal is successful. If you don't convince them, your proposal is rejected, or maybe you are told to revise it, or maybe make it a little bit more suitable to what that particular donor would want, right? So basically, a grant proposal is a formal, most times it is a written document that you submit to a donor so that the donor can give you funding for an activity or a project, right? So basically, that is what a grant proposal is. But since part of this is also going to talk about grant writing, basically the grant writing is the very act of you sitting down with your team or with yourself or with whoever you have to write down the idea that you have that you would want to present to the donor, right? In a particular format, in a certain time frame, with certain maybe approaches. That is you designing, literally sitting down and say, this is the design. So that is the grant writing part. But the grant proposal basically is you writing to a donor and say, hey, if you give me $500,000, I'm going to do this. And these are the results that I will bring to you. And these are how I'm going to change people's lives. And I'm going to reach maybe 2,000 people with this in this location. That is it. All good? I'll keep visiting the chat because that's the way we are interacting right now, because all your mics are not enabled, right? So that should be good. I'll also ask Vida to, if you see something unique, let me know. But in the meantime, let us go to the components that we would like to talk about. We know that when you are writing a grant proposal, this could be like 15 pages, 10 pages or more. But what would happen is that you would need to have an executive summary for your proposal that the donor or the reviewer of your proposal will look at. This could be like half a page, sometimes 2 paragraphs of what your proposal really entails. Sometimes you are told to present it in form of a table, or sometimes you are actually told to present it as an abstract, the way we would do abstracts when we are writing theses or technical papers or articles, for example, right? So your executive summary is a concise and comprehensive overview of the entire project. What the project would want to do, what sectors you might want to channel this activity into, where you will do it, what type of people you will reach, and maybe a bit of your results, right? So it also touches on the problem that you would like to address, which is very important, and the overall goals I mentioned, and then the methods and strategies for you to achieve this goal. And you can sometimes mention, I'm going to use this much of resources, money, to reach these activities. So the most important thing is that you articulate in a very short way, and also I would say this is the first point you are interacting with the reviewer. So you make it look really, really good, make it appealing to them, and make them look like, wow, okay, if this is the overview, let me dive into the real content and see what this person is writing. So the whole point is that you make it as a compelling introduction, and also let that person really have a mental picture of what the project will look like, maybe in significance or in fullest details. Right. So that's your executive summary there. I believe we have also written executive summaries even at school, and they say you summarize this paragraph. They are literally telling you, give us the main components of what you're writing. So I said you can present this in the form of table too. So you have the project title, you have the name of your organization, the locations or the county that you will implement this project in, sectors, it could be child protection, it could be education, it could be food security, target population, maybe you are looking at displaced people by conflict in county X and Y, or maybe you are looking at farmers, or maybe you're just looking at children who are school going children. So your target population is also defined here. Start and end date of the project, very important, and then the budget. How much are you asking, and who is the contact person for this particular proposal? So yeah, if you do it in a table form, it's mostly you are most likely not to miss out because it's easier to fill the table. But if you also do it in narrative form, you just maybe have a checklist to make sure that you do not skip the most important parts. Sometimes both of them are required, the narrative and the table. All right, so we're talking about context overview. All projects are implemented in a certain context. No project is implemented in a vacuum, right? So what is important here is that you help the person who is reviewing your proposal or the donor to have as much background information as possible. So this part of the proposal sometimes can be like a full page, sometimes half a page. But here, what is important really is that you make this, you look at the donor as if they do not know what is happening. Let's say in Tambura Yambio, we're just giving an example. So if this was going to be an education project in Tambura Yambio, or maybe in Zara or any county that you would want to choose, you might want to say to tell the donor like, what is the context in that place. Maybe there is limited, or let me say, maybe the overall picture of education infrastructure in that region is that maybe there's limited number of schools, teachers do not have training facilities, teaching learning materials are not there. But those are the specific, what led to all this, right? So here you're diving into the background. Maybe there was conflict, and then maybe people are displaced and they move to new location, and then they will lack these materials that we mentioned. And maybe overall it's the lack of development in the first place. These things did not exist, or maybe there is a displacement and then new arrivals into the county or into the whole region. So basically, when we look at the background, I'm sure there is a major trigger somewhere that you might want to give or share as the overall driver of the vulnerability that you want to address in this context. Here, we are going to give more details. But when we give more details, we are going to look at relevant statistics, because you cannot really claim that this is the education situation in Zara County, and you do not have the numbers. Maybe there is an assessment that is done by the county education department. There is an assessment done by the education cluster in that county, or maybe there is an overall assessment done by other donors, like let's say maybe the OCHA or UN, or I don't know, somebody might have done, or you as an organization might have done your own assessment. So here, this is where you will dive into statistics, okay? There are only 5 schools functioning in this county, and there are maybe 200,000 children who would want to enroll in schools. So you can already see there is a significant competition for spaces and teaching and learning spaces, and then materials, maybe access to teaching and learning materials. You might want to give a projection on what it might look like. But if your numbers really speak to the reality on the ground, I think this is the best way to start. And here, sometimes what is happening is not only one thing. If there is an education problem that you would like to address, there are other factors that contributed to this. Maybe there's an economic problem, maybe there is an environmental context that you would like to give, or maybe a social context. Sometimes children do not go to school, not because there are no schools, but maybe socially, as we have seen, sometimes children might go to school, but it differs a lot from boys to girls, and other factors, maybe their age groups or something like that. So here, you give the other factors in the region that are contributing to why there is that particular problem. And yeah, so context overview, that's it. The overall picture, what is happening? Is it a displacement that is happening? Is it maybe a natural disaster that is happening, or there's something that is happening that is really causing all the vulnerability that you see. Then you give in the statistics by sharing the numbers and quoting maybe relevant statistics for sure in your proposal, and then you can strengthen that by looking at what other factors are contributing to the vulnerability that you're talking about. All right, so that's what you have in the context overview. We go to the next. Now we're talking of needs. These two components can be confusing, context overview and the needs. But for sure, the fact that there is displacement does not necessarily mean there is going to be the same needs. The needs would vary a lot. And sometimes needs even vary from people to people, like from group to group. The needs among school-going children would also be different from needs of maybe farmers in that particular area, or even in the school. By the way, the needs of the teachers are different from the needs of the students, and the needs of students in secondary school are also different from the ones who are in primary school or younger. Right. So here for needs, I would say this is the part you as a grant writer who really need to sit down, take your coffee or take your water and give it real thought. Because if the needs are not articulated well, your proposal would just be a good song. And maybe you might not convince the donor to really see what is the need. Because sometimes, when I tell you, can we do this? You say, what is the need for doing that? So this statement is not undermined in the proposal. I believe this is where you look at the specific problem that the project intends to address. Okay, you have 500 children in a school that has 4 classrooms. Here you literally want to zoom in and say, if I have 500 children and I have only 4 classrooms, the learning does not happen. There's always competition for space, for sitting, to learn. There's always noise and disturbance, and it's not conducive. So what is the problem here? And maybe there you are already creating even a solution. You are influencing the donor to think of a solution alongside that. So if you have 500 children and you have only 4 temporary structures in a particular school, then in the mind of the donor, you are creating a picture. Oh, maybe we can construct additional 10 learning spaces. Are you seeing that? Because the problem is that, or let us say, maybe the problem is that children do not have access to teaching and learning materials that they will need. That there is no access to things like pen, rubbers, exercise books. Children share an exercise book among them. You remember those days when UNICEF would distribute exercise books, we would cut them into half and give this part to 2 children, and you tell them to share. Sometimes you even plug out the pages, empty pages, and give one child maybe 5 white papers and the other one, because the learning materials are scarce. So this part mainly is where you try to influence the thinking. You try to convince the donor that this need is real, and the need is significant, and really the children deserve support. You can also look at other things that we talked about in the context. Maybe the families do not have means to support or buy additional materials for their children because they have other problems. Maybe they don't have enough food, or they are displaced, or they can't access markets, things like that. But for sure, here for needs, you're just sticking to that particular thing you want to do. If it is an education need, just zoom in as much. Okay, maybe children have they walk 2 hours to go to the nearest school. That would be an argument for you, maybe to set up satellite schools in the next villages, or maybe if the teachers do not have means to go to school, a teacher lives like 2 hours away from the education center, that would be an argument for you later to say, how do we support the teachers, maybe with bicycles or things like that, means of transport. But basically what you are doing here at the needs statement is that you are laying a foundation for the rest of the proposal, for sure, including the goals you want to achieve, including the methodologies, objectives, and expected outcomes. This is where you lay the foundation. So please make sure and you also try to create the urgency. We need to do this now. Otherwise, the children will just miss the whole school year. They will not learn, and we will not have that positive impact if we do not intervene. Yeah. So I would want to really, if you have any question, please take note here and put them out later. Needs statement for me is, let me say, it's the heart of every proposal. And usually this is the part I write when I've written other parts. I can also come back to this and say, okay, what I put in the rest of the proposal, is it really articulated well in the needs statements? So this is the part you will visit 2-3 times before you submit. Let's go to objectives. Yeah, if you have identified the need for teaching and learning spaces that we mentioned earlier, 500 children, 4 learning spaces, you might want to go down into your objectives now. Objectives usually are divided into different levels. That is the bigger picture, like outside there, what do you want to contribute to? And then from your projects, within your project, what is within your control to contribute to? And then there are things that you as a team can actually do. You don't even need the whole organization, but you as a team can do, right? And these are your activities. So there are 2 ways to approach this. You can move from the overall objectives to the activities. But to me, the easiest way and the easiest staircase is to move from activities upwards, right? When you are actually doing the project. But when you are creating the objectives tree, you would want to see that children have a safe space where they can learn in an humble environment, okay, equitable for all of them. Children who are girls, children who are boys, children who have disabilities, everyone is involved. So this is what you would like to see in that particular county. But then there are needs that the first objective is not within your control as an organization to really accomplish, because this is bigger than you, right? But then what would happen is that your intervention also can be broken down into some level of control. So if you would want to have if you would want to ensure safe, equitable learning environment for children in Western Equatoria, for example, I don't know why I'm from Western Equatoria today. What you will do in your project is that you will say, oh, okay, I can contribute to this, right? So how do I contribute to this? I would try to have an improved access for children into quality education for children who are displaced or affected by conflict and whatever, right? So maybe natural resources, or even if there was, let's say, you still want to zoom into the problem of 500 children and 4 learning spaces. What you will do there is that, okay, I can create an environment where children learn. So you construct additional learning spaces and you provide the teaching learning materials, and maybe engage the teachers more, give them incentives or something like that. That is within what you can control. Okay, so if you construct 10 additional learning spaces, yeah, the children will have a better environment for learning. That is something you will do. what will happen again is that you will need to perform certain activities towards the construction of the learning material, of the learning spaces. So if for example, you were doing a food security project, the outputs that you would do are the outputs you might want to achieve in the short term is that people have food in their houses, as simple as that. And if it is an education one, you can say the learning spaces are constructed. I can take pictures. I can touch 10 learning spaces that have been constructed. That's the output of your intervention. But you will have activities, of course. You will identify the schools that you want to support. You will do the registration of children there, or maybe you will involve the contractor to do this construction, and you will talk to authorities. You will actually maybe talk to the education authorities in that school where they want to construct. These are the activities that you will do before you see that the 10 learning spaces are constructed. All right. So your activities, you have immediate results, which are like outputs, learning spaces, 10 learning spaces constructed. And then the outcome of that is that you will have children now learning in more spaces, less congestion in the classrooms, and actually the actual act of learning is enhanced for the children. And then you will contribute to the overall safe, equitable environment or dignified access to education in that region by you supporting this particular school. Maybe there is another organization that is supporting 2 other schools somewhere in that region. All right. So have we seen the staircase of objectives from up to down, or either way you can arrive to the same circle? All right, so let's go to more parts. Does not stop there, but we also want to, if you tell a donor that, hey, I have this problem in Zara County, these are the objectives I would want to achieve. The person will still ask you, how will you do that? So the how part is the implementation approach. And by the way, the context that you are describing can also be described equally or even more perfectly by another organization, okay? The objectives that you want to achieve can also be achieved by other actors in that region. But the how, your implementation approach, is going to be your unique blueprint for your proposal. And this is where the competition really starts, okay? So if Excellence Foundation for South Sudan is going to do this project in a unique, maybe creative way, in a way that they show value for their intervention, or maybe they do it in a way that is more sustainable, the how part is the most important part for you to win that particular proposal. So take notes there. This is going to be you telling the donor, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to assess the school, identify the maybe the most appropriate maybe you might want to look at how do you start in the first place. You can just jump in and construct the additional learning spaces. You might want to talk to the parents, even to the children, and to the school authorities. You might also want to check, do we have really the need for additional spaces? As where will they be located in the school? How close are they to the villages, the children? Because sometimes you can construct a very nice school, but very far away from the settlement. So people still struggle to get there. And sometimes you might say, I will do it maybe in collaboration with the suppliers in that region, with the support and involvement of the the county education department. And maybe you will say, hey, I would do it in a way that I will first construct temporary spaces, maybe 2 of them to make sure this is the children do not miss out on the school term, and then go on later to construct more permanent spaces. So that is you being creative in your approaches there, right? And your activities still need to appear here. What activities you will do and how do they align to the objectives that you have stated earlier? Because the objectives and the outcomes that we talked about, the outputs, were already a trap. You made a promise there. This is what I want to arrive at. But how you will want to arrive at here is still a question you need to answer here. You can also talk of how you will divide roles and responsibilities and the timeline and maybe the necessary resources and partnerships that you will want. Okay, so here you can also talk, are you going to do a direct implementation, or are you going to have a local partner, or maybe you partner with other entities? There could be another organization. This could be other actors in that area. We're talking about, hey, we have been working with maybe with a construction company that has done this and this, and they have this experience, and we are going to involve them. We have a framework agreement, and they will start the implementation as soon as possible. So that's your local partner there. You can also talk of really working closely with the education departments, and that is also you bringing forward what are the resources or leverages you would want to build this project on in that area. Sorry, you can also here, this is where you demonstrate that the results that you want to achieve can actually be achieved, right? So if your the point was to make sure children have access to learning spaces, and what you are doing is going to take 12 months, the donor might say, that is already the whole school year gone. Do you have other creative ways of doing this, right? So your implementation approach is as good as the objectives that you talked about and the needs that you talked about before. Okay, so let's go. Of course, you cannot implement all your good intentions, all your good activities, and everything that you would want to achieve without having the money. To me, this is also another part. This is the part where you can be knocked out, because if you are going to construct 10 learning spaces, I'm sorry, I'm stuck with this particular example. I don't want to lose it and confuse you, but we could talk about other activities like food security, protection, and all that. Maybe I'm biased because the Excellence for Foundation is geared towards education in the ambition, but I will stick to that. The budget basically is you telling the donor, if you give me this amount of money, I'm going to construct the 10 learning spaces. Okay. So if you're asking for 500,000 to construct 10 learning spaces, and there is another organization or someone else who's asking for 200,000 to construct the same or even more, are you seeing that element of competition or value for money? This is the language the donors are using now, value for money, right? So here, your budget is also a tool that can be used to knock you out, or maybe give you a leeway to say, okay, you have these good objectives. You also have very good approaches, and you're asking for reasonable resources. The same way, if your child asks you for 1,000 SSP to go and buy maybe something from the shop, that thing has to really make sense in your head. Is it something worth 1,000? Or why would you buy that at 1,000 when somebody else can buy that maybe 300 SSP? All right. So the budget can also be used to really reject your proposal, even if you have good activities, good objectives, and you have identified the needs, good approaches. But a budget is also a tool for you to argue further, right? Here, as we said, you cannot achieve anything without the resources, without the money. So you look at what you want to cover with that money. You look at the personnel, because of course you need people, and you also need the supplies and materials, and the equipment, of course. How many iron sheets you would want to buy, maybe how many bamboo bundles, nails, and all that. You quantify that in your budget, and also cover other things like transport, overhead, stuff related to costs. Transport, that is for materials and also for staff and other. Of course, there's always an expenditure that is related to all these activities you are doing. Right. So here, you can also mention what are the contributions you will make in your budget. Will it be material contribution in kind or something? You can say, hey, we are asking for 500,000 to do this activity, but we also have maybe about 10 bundles of bamboo that the community has contributed, or that your organization has contributed to this. This is another way also to convince the donor, by the way, that you really mean to implement this project if you have your own contribution. Here also, we are talking about efficient and effective use of resources to achieve the results. The same way, if somebody is asking for 200,000 to achieve the same results with you, and you're asking for 500,000 to achieve the same, somebody will look like, is that efficient? Why are you asking for 500,000? So that is a question also you may need to answer. Just made a small table to look at how you may want to present your budget. This is far from the truth on the ground, but I just use it as an example. So when you are doing a budget, you have the budget categories: human resource, materials, transport, admin costs. All those categories. You can also subdivide these into line item. So what you have here is an item, the budget code. Of course, each budget line will have a unique code, because how will you report, how will you track expenses? So you have an item, maybe this is materials for construction of learning spaces. The budget code is, I don't know, maybe budget code 010203. The unit is maybe these are iron sheets. You can talk about iron bars and iron sheets. Unit cost, how much is one, and how many will you need? What is the level of effort? Level of effort here, you are just looking at a percentage to charge in this project. Because sometimes some activities or let me say some items in your budget can be shared with other projects. So if they are shared with other projects, you can also show here what percentage will be charged to this particular proposal, and then you can make your total at the end. Especially human resource. If you have, let me say you have 5 projects, and you have maybe the head of programs, or maybe you have finance or procurement, these shared positions, you can show what level of effort will be charged to this particular budget. Maybe 5% of the head of programs salaries will be charged here, 20% of the driver's salary will be charged here, and it goes on like that. And for direct items like the iron sheets that we talked about, you can charge them 100% in this particular proposal. All right, so that's it with the budget. Let's go to other things that also add value. Sometimes these are scored less compared to what we already covered, but sometimes the donor would want to look at how will you monitor these activities, how you show the results, and what will be your indicators and all that. So you're in your monitoring and evaluation plan. I'm sure as a grant writer, you don't necessarily need to have expertise in this, but you can involve your M&E unit to support you in this section. Most of these sections, including budget, by the way, you don't do them alone, as we mentioned earlier. Sometimes even you don't even know the prices in the market. How much is iron sheet? You do not know. You ask your procurement person. How much is paid for a driver? You may not know until you ask your human resource, what is the scale for a driver, right? So you involve everyone. Same way you involve the M&E unit to make an M&E plan. So basically what you would like to see here is an outline of the project's progress, how the impact will be assessed, and what the results will look like. Okay, this part is important because these days it's meal. People talk about monitoring, evaluation, accountability, all that learning, all put together in one package. So this site, it's a demonstration of results. And you are also held accountable based on this. When the donor is coming for evaluation, they look at, yeah, you said in 6 months you are going to construct 10 learning spaces. Where are they? Or how many will you have by that time? And then you show that your monitoring plan. In the first quarter, we are going to cover maybe 3 will be completed. By the end of the last quarter, maybe this number of children will be reached, or this number of learning materials will be distributed, like that. And here, still you are stuck to your objectives. You have the indicators for each objective, and then you show how you will collect data. Will you be visiting schools? Will you be doing physical observation? Will you be how will you bring forward the data needed to make sense of your progress? Timelines, will it be done on monthly basis, quarterly basis? And who will be the person doing this? Will it be the M&E officer, or who will be doing this particular activity? But if you have also feedback that is incorporated in your meal unit, you might want to continue to gather the feedback from the children, the teachers, the parents, and other stakeholders in that community. And you can have your feedback. We will look at accountability to affected people in another slide. But basically, this is it. And you can also continue to monitor your expenditures and other resources, because sometimes when you are doing implementation, you can spend more, can spend less. You might have resources that are not spent here, so you might want to do budget reallocation, but you cannot do reallocation if you don't know how much you have spent and how much is left. All right. Yeah. So M&E plan can be a complete document on its own, and I believe that is something we can even expand more, maybe in part 2 later. Okay, so let's go to another part. Yeah, we are talking about accountability to affected people. This is another way donors I would say kind of harassing people now. Are you involving the people? Did you even involve the children to ask them, when you said you are going to construct the 10 learning spaces, what are the voices of the children and the parents, and also maybe the school board, or maybe the other stakeholders like the education county department? These are very important stakeholders. Their voices will need to be documented even by the time you are writing the proposal, not during implementation only. So in your accountability to affected people section of the proposal, you already need to show how you have involved the people, how you are going to continuously, transparently share information with the affected people, and how you'll be collecting feedback from these people, and how you are going to operationalize the feedback that you have received from the people, and how you will continue to learn as a project. So here, the donors might look at your proposal, very good, well articulated and everything, but then when it comes to involvement of people, someone there might just knock you out and say, no, this is you designing projects, and people are not involved. So also do not forget this part, please. And of course, other cross-cutting themes. Sometimes we're talking about efficient, and we're also talking about the value for money parts of your proposal. As you reach people with education services, you can also use the same resources to talk about things like environmental protection. When I'm going to construct 10 learning spaces in this particular school, I'm going to plant trees around the learning spaces to, make the school environment greener. And maybe if you are going to have, let's say, if you are going to have issues like you're going to buy materials that are, you might have like timber or bamboo or something that you think is depleting the environment, you can see a way to engage, to continue engaging with the with those suppliers. How do they replenish all this? Or maybe how do you even when you are doing construction in school, by the way, how do you protect the immediate environment? Sometimes we can just construct and we litter the environment with plastic sheets, and we don't have a plan to maybe collect all this plastic garbage, and then have a way to reduce the environmental pollution with our activity. Things like gender issues, how will you ensure that if you have unique gender issues, for example, maybe you have a community that does not allow boys or girls to go to school, you can look at it in a way that you can use the same education project to talk about gender issues in that particular community. Rights of the minority groups, if that's the case, you can also talk about the issues related to the right of children in relation to how they relate to their parents. You can talk about creating positive relationship, by the way, between parents and their children in terms of positive parenting. Yeah. So you can use the same project resources to do more. And sometimes donors really like this. And yeah, it's a way to just convince someone, if you give me this resource, do you know I can even do more? I can do environmental protection, I can enhance gender equality in this community, and I can talk about the rights of children. Yeah, it's a way to make somebody agree with you some more. One part of a project proposal, of course, is the project work plan. You cannot say I'm going to do maybe 20 activities and you don't show when you will do them. And also in your monitoring plan, if you do not have a work plan, what are you going to base your monitoring plan on? Yeah, so you monitor what you already promised to someone, that I'm going to do this in the first quarter, I'm going to do this in the second month, I'm going to do this. And sometimes also doing a work plan is to show someone how logically you are sequencing these project activities to arrive at the desired goal. For example, somebody would want to see, if you are going to do construction of learning spaces in a school, what are you going to start with? I'm going to do a consultation with the communities in the first 2 weeks, and then I'm going to do maybe assessment of the local environment in terms of where will we get, what is the cheapest way to get the construction materials for these spaces. So that is like you doing like an assessment in the local area. You can also talk about involvement of the school board and teachers and involvement of children, and then doing the actual construction. So all these activities will need to come in a certain sequence, because maybe people will not want you to just jump into construct or you doing the construction without having other activities done in the background, right? So it's for more like it's a way to logically present your approaches, but it's also a way for you to be held accountable. Because if you say, I'm going to do activity 2, or activity 1.2, for example, in February and March, and then there is a monitoring plan, or there is going to be a donor visit, they will look at your monitoring plan and be like, okay, let's go check these guys out. They say they were going to do this in February and March. When they come, these are not done. Hey, what happened? You are being held accountable there. Because this is where you make the promise and say, this date, I'm going to do this. This date, I'm going to do this. So when they come back and they don't see it, it's already an alarm. Like, what is happening? You might already need to explain yourself. Or really, if you are lucky, you can show, hey, I said I was going to do this and now I have done this. That is it. All right. So I would want to stop here and say thank you very much for your attention. I don't take this for granted. Maybe I'll open it up back to the room, so that I can also hear your voices, you guys, and hear your thoughts and your experiences when it comes to proposal writing. So I will stop here. Bida, do you have a particular way you may want me to interact with the room, or do we just open it up to people raising their hands now? Yeah.
Okay. First, what we will do is we'll read for you the questions that are in the chat box. That is the first thing we will do, and then after you addressing the questions that are in the chat box, and then we will give an opportunity to everyone here to we'll give an opportunity to each and everyone to those ones who have questions to be able to raise their hands and then ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the meantime, I'm giving you sort of 5 minutes break. You have been talking a lot. Maybe you want to grab a glass of water, and then when we come back after the 5 minutes, we can then continue with the questions. Yeah. So guys,
Okay.
I'm dropping the attendance register in the chat box. So please tap on that link and register your attendance. Meanwhile, we have a 5 minutes break. We have a 5 minutes break, and then we get back to take all your questions. It's been a very insightful presentation. I've picked a lot of things, a lot of new things, which will also improve the way I do my things in the next few days. And I want to also thank so much John Ngong for the elaborate presentation. Very, very important. It's very rare, especially for you to sort of get very selfless people, very selfless professionals who share their knowledge for free like this. And we want to thank you so much for that. So guys, a 5 minutes break. Register your attendance using the attendance register in the chat box. And then when we come back, we'll be able to take any questions that you have. You don't need to raise your hand now. Like I said, you don't need to raise your hand. Once we open up the room for the questions, then we will tell you to raise your hands. We will start with the questions first that are in the chat box. And then after that, we will then give room for people to be able to unmute and then ask their questions in case their questions are not already asked by those that are in the chat box. And of course, this is a 2-day training. This is day 1. Usually we structure our sessions in this manner: 1 hour for presentation, and then 1 hour to allow an open interaction between the trainer and the trainees. Yeah. So if you're joining these sessions for the first time, thank you so much for joining. We have these sessions every 2 weeks, and for the Tukul School, they have the sessions every week, every Saturday at 8 p.m. Juba time. So it will be nice joining these communities, because not only do you get to enhance your knowledge, but you also get to learn from other professionals and get to know, get knowledge in different fields of work. So it's super amazing, and it's really doing a lot. Like John Ngong said earlier. Yeah. So we have 3 minutes for our break. Please do register your attendance using the link that is in the chat box, and then we will get to read the questions in the chat box after the break. 2 minutes left for the break. Okay, 5 minutes is over. John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Bida.
Okay, yeah, good that you are back. So we can start with the questions in the chat box. We have a couple of them here. Let me just scroll up and then read for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first question here is that what is the difference between proposal writing and grant writing? What is the difference between proposal writing and grant writing? And then the second question is, what is the difference between goals and objectives? Someone is asking, will you share the slides? Yes, slides will be shared. And then somebody is saying that, yes, hey, John, hey, Ngong, this presentation is great. There are these concepts that keep confusing me. I believe this might be helpful for colleagues here too. The concepts below are inputs, outputs, outcomes, expected results, and impact. So he wants to get these things clear. Inputs, outputs, outcomes, expected results, and impact. And somebody is saying, thank you so much, John Ngong, for this meaningful presentation. That is Angelina. And another one is again saying, thank you so much. And somebody, may you kindly share a sample of projects writing, if possible. Now, usually when you attend such trainings, it's not nice to sort of get samples. What is very important is getting the concept of how you do it, and then you do the sample yourself. So when you just follow the explanation that has been made, and then you just develop it. Again, thank you so much, Ngong. And then another one is saying, what are the types of proposal writings? And somebody is saying, nice and straightforward presentation. In regards to context, what could be the main or major tools or resources project writers can look for to get relevant information for diverse projects? Again, the question is, what could be the main or major tools or resources project writers can look for to get relevant information for diverse projects? And then another one is saying, how does a need statement differ from data revelation? And another one is saying, what kind of preparation is needed before writing up a proposal? This will be covered in tomorrow's session. And another one is saying, after proposal, where can one submit to, or how will one get linkages to donors, especially for community-based organizations? So those are the questions. John, over to you.
Okay. Thank you all for that feedback. I also like the interaction part because I want to hear from you guys what it has been like, and maybe what questions you guys might have. And it's really good to have this. Oh, Bida, maybe we can go one by one, especially on the questions.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me read again. We can start with the first one. After writing a proposal, where can one submit to, and how will one get linkages to donors, especially community-based organizations?
So, in terms of how you submit, when you are applying for an opportunity, that particular opportunity that comes maybe from a donor, or maybe it's published on their website, or it comes to you through the clusters, or wherever you get your information, that call for proposal also comes with a TOR, or a terms of reference. It tells you when you will submit this proposal. That's where you get your deadline. That's where you also get how you will submit the proposal. Sometimes it also tells you what other documents are needed apart from the proposal itself. Maybe you need to submit your registration certificate, you need to submit your audit, you need to submit your organogram, and there is either an email where you submit all these documents to, including your proposal and budget and work plan and everything, or there is a link if it is going to be submitted online, right? So when an opportunity comes, it comes with all these other pieces of information that are really important for you, because you cannot write a proposal and then wonder, where do I submit it to now? Do I take a border and go deliver it to the donor office, or do I click on this email and submit it? Things like that. In terms of how do you get information as a community-based organization, yes, this is it. As a grant writer, one of your roles is intelligence for the organization. So you look out for opportunities in the cluster by attending cluster meetings, by engaging even with donors or agencies that you think might be donors to you, and just keeping yourself informed about what is happening in the humanitarian in space, right? And maybe keeping key calendars. When are the calls for proposals for these particular donors released? Are they released now? And then you can dive into that. Let's go to the next, Bida.
Okay, thank you so much for the elaborate reply. And the next question here is saying, apart from responding to a call for proposal, what are the formats or writing a proposal which you search for donors? I don't know whether you can get that clearly. Apart from responding to a call for proposal, what are the formats or writing a proposal of which you search for donors?
Okay, good. I think that is a very good point, because a proposal can be solicited or unsolicited. Solicited means the donor is calling out for people to submit proposals. The donor is soliciting for proposals from many applicants. Sometimes a proposal can be unsolicited. The donor did not even ask for a proposal, but you, as an organization, think you have a very good idea and you have identified a need that needs to be funded. So you sit down and write your proposal. In that case, the template does not come from the donor. The content will come from you. The template will be yours. The structure that we talked about before here, how you will present the needs, how you talk of your approaches, work plan, your budget will come from you. So what you will do is that you will write it down yourself in what you think is an information you really want to send to the donor and make them aware, because sometimes donors do not know what is happening in some locations because they are not on the ground. But if you feel, I feel there is a need here, and that this is a real need, and this needs to be funded, you write it yourself and you take it to them. That will be like an unsolicited proposal. So in that case, you don't need to use a donor template. You just use your own template. What do you think is going to make it? You package it in a way that if you share this information, do you feel you're missing out some part, or you're presenting the real issue on the ground? So there, be open. You can design it as you want. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then somebody is saying, what distinguishes context overview and needs assessment?
All right. So when you are talking of context overview, I would say you are using, I can give an analogy. When you are using, when you are shooting a video, you can use aerial camera. Okay. So to say context overview is you are using an aerial view of what is happening on the ground. You see maybe a natural disaster, maybe flooding, or maybe there is drought, or maybe there is displacement, or there is general sense of, sorry. All right, maybe we can go on. Okay, that was a nice one. Maybe there is like an overview of what is happening, but you're looking at it from an elevated angle. Context overview. But then when you look at the needs on the ground, what has that particular thing done? Okay, that displacement of people, what has it done to, if you are looking at food security, what has it done to people's level of food security? That's where you will feel the need now. What has it done to children going to school? That's where you will see the need. What has it done to people accessing clean water? All right. So now if you are talking of this as the displacement, all right, maybe moved people to a certain location where they don't have access to schools, they don't have access to teaching materials, they don't have access, even there are no teachers, or maybe children find it very difficult to go to school because of the distance of the next learning center. Then you are not talking of the need on the ground. But for the context, you are looking at the overall, what is happening? Is it like maybe a displacement? Is it a natural disaster? Or maybe there is a general sense of poverty in that country, or something else is happening. So those are the two different ways to look at context overview and the needs on the ground. Yeah. And let's go to the next bidder. And I see you are muted in case you are speaking. Bida,
Yes.
Are you speaking? Ah, okay.
Yes. I just changed my devices. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other question was, somebody wanted to understand inputs, outputs, immediate results, and outcomes.
Oh yes, that is to say we need to have a full day of discussion because for sure these things can be confusing, but this is the way to look at it. Okay, when you are doing a project, you will need to perform an activity called construction of a learning space. I'm just to start with this example, guys. I'm boring you with it now, but we're just looking at an activity. Okay. You're transporting these things to school. You have contracted someone to build the learning space, and you have people bringing supplies to the center, and these are activities, right? So that is one level. You are standing on the ground. You are doing activities. What happened is that the activity of you bringing the nails together, the contractor bringing, or the engineer bringing the iron sheet and putting it together, will result in a certain output called learning space constructed. You will, at the end of the day, or after 5 days, you say, hey guys, we have constructed 2 learning spaces. At that level, there is a certain level of result already. Okay. By being busy throughout the sun, throughout the day, constructing the center, at the end of the day or by the end of the week, you will have the learning center constructed. That is your output. Okay. Now, sometimes we don't want to stop at the output, because the point was not just to construct learning spaces. The point was that we would want children to have humble space, safe from the sun, safe from the heat, safe from the wind or congestion, where they have space to learn humbly. Okay, and children can actually go to that particular space. What happens is that if you have constructed these learning spaces or shelters, children can actually access and learn in an humble environment. You have an outcome already. Are you seeing that? You're already contributing to an outcome. And in that case, there could be multiple outcomes already, by the way. Children sitting comfortably and learning in an environment that is better. Children also now having higher level of understanding of what is being taught, because they are more comfortable, or because the rain is not disturbing them, or because they are not congested in that environment. So their learning capability will increase. And in that case, there may be motivation to go to school will increase. Or maybe in that case, you might even find they are actually learning. So the level of literacy increases in that area. You already look at several outcomes, right? And then if you look at it, you'll be like, wow, okay, maybe after some time, maybe after 2 years of these kind of activities and achieving these kind of outcomes, you will find that in that region you have really you have increased the people's ability to learn, or maybe you have increased the enrollment, or you have increased people's maybe willingness to send the children to school, or you have increased the literacy levels in that particular area. So you are contributing to a higher level result, right? So if you construct it in a way that you start with an activity, you don't lose the understanding. But if you start up, you might be confused already. Let us make it with another example. You are doing a food security project. People are displaced. You are coming in with food items. Maybe you are coming in with maize flour. You are coming in with beans. You are coming in with oil. You want to distribute to people. Okay. So you bringing people together and calling their names out and giving them that maize flour, that beans, that rice or whatever is an activity you will do in the day, and you will be standing in the heat. You don't even know what you are going to achieve with it. Okay, you're just distributing items, right? Distribute. The activity of you distributing and people receiving the food items is still at the activity level. By the time they go to their houses, they will have in their private stores food items. They have food that they can cook, and they have food on their table ready. You have an output already. People accessing food. People eating food at that particular time. If people are able to eat food in right quantity for a long time, you will see that they are not going to die of hunger. Their children are not going to be malnourished. What have you done? You have increased their level of food security beyond just doing the distribution. But now you can see they are healthy. You can see that they are not hungry, like people dying of people maybe see people who are or children who are malnourished, or people selling their properties because they don't have food. You see that they already have food. They look healthy. They are not dying and things like that. Those are outcomes you're already achieving. But if for example, this is a sustained effort, 2 years down the line, you will not even talk of hunger in that community. Because maybe you will have contributed to other things. Now maybe you have given them tools they can farm, or maybe now they have skills that they can use to grow their own maize, and they have access to land or something like that. At that point, you might not sit in that community and say, I'm here to distribute food to you, because they already have it. Are you seeing how activities grow into outputs and to outcomes, and then the overall impact? Maybe I hope that helps clarify this confusion. But I feel you. Yeah. Let's go to the next.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, what is the difference between goals and objectives?
Okay. Look. Your results can also be called objectives. Sometimes we just call it results framework, or your project objectives. So you can break them down. That's why we're talking about outputs. This is an immediate level result, outcome, midterm results, and the goal or impact at the utmost level there. So when you talk of objectives, sometimes you can say, okay, what does the project, or what does this particular proposal want to achieve? You can call it aptly as your of the objective. Okay, so you can have, at the end of the day, you want people who are food secure, and they are well nourished, and they like, people do not lack food. You see a high increased level of food security in that community. That is your objective here. You don't want to see people going to bed hungry, or or children being minority. So at the highest level, as your objective, or maybe the impact of the project, you want to see increased level of food security. But you might not arrive at the highest level without achieving other objectives in the middle. All right, so you can break it down into the results that we want. People have access to food. That is one, and they can utilize it, and they can cook it, and they can actually eat it and consume it. It's a nutritious food. So that is one level of objective. At the immediate level, you have really people having that touch of the maize flour in their hand, or beans, or a packet of rice or something, or oil, right? Having it in their store. So this is also another objective. We have objectives after the activities, but then the overall impact or overall goal is always set up there. Yeah. Shall we go ahead, Vida?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Those were the questions in the chat box. Now we open the floor to the members of the audience. You can raise your hand, and you can raise your hands to 1, make comments, 2, ask questions. Make sure that you are very, very brief. We are giving each of you a maximum of 3 minutes. You shouldn't take longer than that. So let's give the one chance to Saddam Aniston. Saddam Aniston, you are very welcome.
Thank you so much, John, for this presentation. Indeed, these are all very important components for proposal development. I've put my question on the chat box. Unfortunately, I think maybe you've not seen it. There's one very important component of exit strategy. I don't know what will you talk about it, or how will you be able to advise us on the exit strategy when it comes to proposal development? Thank you.
Yeah, very good. I think this is a very good point, because all proposals actually should have an exit strategy. Sometimes this is required of you, especially if you are doing projects that are like 1 year and more. The elements of an exit strategy should be clearly articulated. So looking at the generic template, not template really, but structure that we shared earlier, you can add another section called exit strategy. Exit strategy is what happens to the services you are providing, or to the activities you are doing when the project is closed, because all projects have a definite start and end date. No project is forever. No. So in that case, you might want to convince the donor that, hey, as I construct these teaching and learning spaces, and the project comes to an end, maybe we'll have the county education department helping the community to continue mobilizing internal resources, or resources at the community level, to continue to do this activity. Or if it was a protection project, for example, you can have community-based groups. Let me say women groups continuing to provide the protection services, even at no cost. So yeah, for sure, an exit strategy is required. And sometimes donors do not want to fund projects that if they come 3 months later, there is no sign that something was happening here. Thanks, Dan, for raising that point. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Angelina, iPhone. Angelina, iPhone, can you hear us? You can unmute and ask your question or make your comment, please. Okay, if Angelina is still struggling, let me give it to Dumba Samuel Aikap. Dumba Samuel Aikap.
Oh, hey, I'm on. I couldn't hear you.
Okay, you're welcome, Angelina.
Thank you so much. Bida. So my question is short. I'm really so happy to be part of all this, and I've learned a lot. But I'm also into research related projects. So I don't know. From John Ngong, does the same format and the flow also apply for when someone is actually generating a proposal for research related opportunities?
Oh yeah, okay, good. The objective remains the same. You are trying to convince someone to fund your research proposal, but the structure will definitely be different because what you might want to address in a research proposal might be slightly different. So that will be based on need now, right? So I would say it's not generic as much, but you there now the change might come in terms of maybe for a research you might want to convince the donor in a different way, okay? Because it will not be like showing the donor that this is what is happening in the community, and maybe these are the type of services I'm going to do. Because in a research, these hard services like doing food distribution or construction are not there. It's a soft, I would say, different approach or different service that you might want to convince the donor about. So I would say we can tailor that into what you will need, because in the research objective too, you need to particularly to articulate why you would want to do that particular research. So if the why part determines what activities you would want to do, and also your methodology. And yeah, so the way we're talking about implementation approach for research, you might be talking of your research methodology. If you talk of activities, your research activities might also be different from someone who is implementing projects there in the community. I believe this can be tailored. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Bida, maybe you would look into presenting something close to that in the future?
Yeah, definitely we will look into that, because but definitely the answer, yeah. So thank you. Yes, Dumba, now you can go, please. Dumba Samuel Aikap.
Yes, thank you, excellent foundation, and John for the excellent presentation. I just want to ask about the bulkiness of the proposal. I remember you said earlier on that there are donors who might provide their own template, and that can actually be like a guidance to see how bulky the proposal will be. Now, assuming that a donor has not provided a template, and that I think is going to be like a test also, how good you are in writing your proposal, how bulky is that? Because there are different categories of people. Some people can write a very brief and precise proposal, not so bulky, with all the information that you need. But there are others who may write even a Bible with all the information. So how do we advise us upon this? Is there a kind of like a limit that at least a proposal without a template should be like of this size, number of pages, so that the donor might not get bored in terms of getting the information, reading through all this?
Yeah, that is a very good point, Dumba, because when you are doing writing, you know that somebody is going to read it, and people's attention span is really decreasing. So the more bulky you write, the higher the risk that somebody might not even read. Sometimes if you are reviewing a submission from the donor side, you can have maybe 100 applications sent to you. Imagine if one of those was 50 pages. You would already be bored and be like, you will choose ones that are like 12 pages or less, or maybe 7 pages and be like, okay, what are they saying here? So that you already see if what you want is presented there, that's what you go for. But if somebody is writing 50 pages, I would think there is a high risk of just being ignored or not even being looked at. Again, the point is that if you are writing a concept note, you don't want to go much. Concept notes can be as short as 5 pages or short, because they are not as detailed as a full proposal. But if indeed you have been told to go to a full proposal and there is no template provided, this is not going to be based on your internal judgments to say, if I really write something that is like 25 pages, is anybody going to read that? So you can still tone it down, maybe 10 pages, I would say, or 15, or it might not be fixed, but this is based on your internal judgment to say, okay, what I want to present can be presented in this much. But I also need to be aware that this particular person is going to read 20 to 30 other proposals. And I don't want my idea to be lost in between. So there now you can use, I would say, like your instincts to submit something within the readability limits of the person. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
And by the way, for proposals that are coming with a template, the donor sometimes says, do not write more than 10 pages. If you write more, they can be knocked out because of that already. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, John. We have Madra Peter. Madra Peter, you can ask your question, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Bida, for giving me the chance. And then thank goes to John for this excellent presentation. I raised my first question, but I think you have skipped, but I'm going to say again, then I have some justification. One is, what is the difference between proposal writing and grant writing? To me, these are the same thing, but in the heading, it shows there's grant proposal writing and grant writing. So I'm a little bit confused. And then my observation here is in the template, the checklist of the proposal writing, there are several things that I may say I will also you can explain for us clearly, like the component of justification of your project. It is also missing in this part justification. Does it mean justification and need statement is irrelevant, or it's a similar thing? That's one. And then one of my colleagues talk about exit strategy, but also I say the exit strategy always go with sustainability of that project and also exit strategy, because we need to make it sustainable, and then also see how you can exit. When you are not there, what will happen to the community, that project, whether it will continue or not, and what will your exit strategy impact the community. Also, another part is also learning. Part of it, also innovative part of that project. How innovative is it? Is it innovative one, or it is not innovative? And how will you and the beneficiary learn throughout the project? Also, this is one of the things. Then, lastly, the theory of change. So, what theory of change can the project? So these are the things that also I led you to also later elaborate, because templates project template also come differently from different donor. Also sometimes you may find from Europe, they have different things. Also USA kind of thing. These are all different kind of template that will be coming. And then lastly, to the colleague, then in the project design, what I also learned a little bit is when you are designing a project, you start with a result, and then you come toward downward activity. And then when you're implementing, so the implementation starts from activity, and then you go to the project, so that M1A it becomes very easy. So thank you very much. This is what I want to say, and then you can answer that question of mine. You're welcome.
Okay, good. I see a couple of questions there coming through, Madra. Very valid observation too. maybe just one thing to clarify. I think it's not a big difference this side. Grant proposal, when we were doing the slides here, we started with what is the grant proposal and then what is grant writing. So don't let that confuse you. A grant proposal was definitely just like a definition of a grant proposal. But when it comes to writing, it's just the actual act of putting people together in your team to write this, whether you are leading it or you have people that you are writing it together. The act of sitting down to write and design, that is grant writing. But for a grant proposal, of course, is that written document telling the donor why you should be funded. So that should not cause any confusion. And then when it comes to a section like justification, that's right. Sometimes the template would want you to have a section called justification. Other templates would just want to look at justification under the needs assessment. Other templates also might even want to put justification where you have like your implementation approach or methodology. But where you have justification itself, what I would personally do is that after looking at the overall context that we talked about before, and you look at the needs that we said, you can have a small section called justification to say, why would you want to construct 10 learning spaces? All right. Here, your justification still flows from the fact that there are 500 children and there are only 4 learning spaces that are existing. Are you seeing that? You from the justification part, one thing you might also want to add, or even some items you might want to add, is that you can talk of your experience as an organization to do these kind of things, why you are the best to do this. You can put it under your justification. You can also talk of that particular activity. Why do you want to do it? Okay. And you can also talk of, or maybe your past experiences doing similar activities to justify why you should be given money to do this particular activity. So Madra, I think that's a very good observation there. You can make a subsection again in the layout that we made, and add justification and talk around those items. For sustainability and exit strategy, yes, this already came up already. You can also add that section. As I said, this particular structure is just a generic one for the purpose of the training, but it can be as unique as it can get. Right? For theory of change, there are 2 ways the donors might want you to approach it. One, in the proposal itself, maybe after doing the layout of objectives that we talked about before, the overall impact, outcomes, and you can have another section called theory of change. This is how you might want to approach it depending on the donor. But again, if you are going to do like for emergency projects, usually nobody bothers you with things like theory of change. But for, let me say, resilience projects or maybe long-term projects, a theory of change is a very important document. And sometimes it is submitted as an annex. It is even submitted as an independent document on its own. For your theory of change for doing livelihood activities, theory of change for food security, maybe theory of change for community change and advocacy. So yeah, in that case, you can be flexible. If you are allowed to insert it in the proposal, insert it to say if you let farmers, if you distribute tools and train farmers, they are likely to cultivate a higher land mass and cover more, and with more skills, they can increase their productivity, and with productivity, they have more in abundance to eat, and therefore the food will be food secure. It's like just drawing that mental map for someone to say, if I do this, I'll get this result, and at the end of the day, this is what I would want to. This is what will be the overall change in the community. So that's another important part. I don't know if I skipped something from Peter, but I believe those are the points he raised. So let's go to the next person.
Okay, we have Binya Benson. You're welcome. And then James Lokosang, prepare. Binya.
Yes, so you're getting me? Hello?
Hi, Benson. How are you?
I'm good.
Good
I'm
to hear
good.
from you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great training. I'm really happy to be part of it because I'm a program manager. So these kind of trainings are good for us. And being a program manager means we write proposals. And most of the questions were asked, especially things to do with the sustainability plan. I don't know if it's similar to exit plan. Then I wish to see that sustainability plan is taken as a very important aspect of a grant proposal. But then currently I'm limited to writing projects. I don't know if the same format, this component that you are training us on, are they the same components that we need to use for writing programs or writing a program is a different kind of or require a different kind of a training. So I simply want to know a project and a program, do they need different components for writing them, or what are the differences in these two? Then, of course, like I said before, most of my questions are answered. Things to do with the risk assessment, I see it also very important. And what I've really learned here is that having, clear and relevant needs based on the aspirations of the target beneficiaries is very important. But again, we have to know the objectives of the donor organization that we want to approach with our project, so that we don't just write a whole proposal and give it to a donor that does not even have interest in it. So I want to say thank you so much, John. I cannot wait to see the details of these components tomorrow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Binya. Really good inputs, and that's why I was looking forward to hear from you guys. In terms of one thing you have mentioned, Jay, actually, and unique is the risk and mitigation strategy. Yes, true. Some donors would even want you to fill out your risk and mitigation strategy as a separate document, or sometimes as part of the proposal that you are submitting. And because sometimes there are risks associated to each project, I mean, really, you cannot implement projects in a very, let's say, in a bulletproof way, where you say, I don't have any risks. That is not true. Okay, so all these things also need to be articulated, and the mitigation strategy. It is not enough to say what the risks are, but what you will do to mitigate or trying to reduce as much as possible those risks associated with your project. One good point in terms of donor needs, this is a very important point. I took it actually for granted, but it should not be taken for granted. Writing proposals is a very painful exercise. It takes a lot of time, a lot of efforts. Imagine if you write, you waste everyone's time, you hold people hostage to write a proposal, and then you find that that is not what the donor wants. That does not align with the donor strategy. This is what we'll talk about tomorrow. But we'll talk about this tomorrow. But really, what is important is that proposals need to be aligned to the needs of the donor, to the objectives of the donor, and also to your own strategy as an organization. Because in your organization there is an executive board. If you write projects that do not align with the objectives of your organization or your strategy, your board might kill you. They might already say, "Why are you doing education? And education is not part of our mandate." So as a grant writer, really, you cannot be shooting into the air without that particular aim. You also need to align it to your internal strategy, to the strategy of the donor, and this actually can change. Your organization strategy for the last 3 years might not be the same now. Right now, maybe there is a new strategy in place. So all your proposals and concept notes should be launched from your existing strategy, and the same way, they should also be aligned to the needs of the donor, because the donor can kick you out even if you write a very good proposal, but does not support their strategy. You're also kicked out. So tomorrow we look at your business intelligence in terms of where do you base your arguments for even launching proposals, right? So that's one point. Programs and projects, yes. Programs, I would say, are the bigger. I would say a program has several projects within it. Okay, so when you are writing programs, for sure, I think that is a bigger, higher level kind of writing. But when you are writing projects, you will tailor them to a particular need, to a particular geographical location, maybe to a particular community or target group. But for sure, programs can have multiple projects under them. You can see even like area programs. Sometimes we say, hey, we have area program in Yambio, but that area program has education project in it. It has health. It has food security. These are like projects within that particular program. And sometimes even food security projects can be different. You can have like 2-3 food security projects under one area program. So let us also see the staircase when it comes to having a big program that has several projects under it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, John. And James Lokosang, you can ask your question, followed by Beacon Solomon, and lastly, Soroba.
Yes, thank you so much, John Ngong, for your elaborate presentation. We really enjoyed it. I have a question, and my question is it necessary to add your footage or previous activities you have done to your project proposal? Like, for instance, maybe you might have done some activities before, then you wanted to add it to the project proposal so that the donor might be convinced. Is it necessary? Thank you.
Okay, we can approach that in 2 ways. Sometimes the donors actually ask you for your previous projects as an evidence that you can actually do this. They just want to see your experience. So if it is required, you can also submit your funded projects as an annex. Or sometimes you can just make a summary of, we had this project in this county, we reached this number of people, and these are the activities of the sectors we have an experience in. So that is one way to look at it. Another way also, projects can be continued into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like that. And you can have projects that do kind of graduation programming. You can engage farmers in farm activities, but in the second phase, you might want to engage them in farm activities that also involve income generating. Or you can form them into like a village saving groups, and they can graduate in the next year into something like a circle. So you from the activity side, you can do like a graduation strategy or methodology to mention, or even to do some of the activities you did in the last phase. So you can bring those activities forward and build more on them. One way. Another way is that if you are required to submit your last or past experiences in form of projects, you can also submit them along. So that, to me, is not an issue. Yeah.
Okay, great. Beacon Solomon. It looks like you're the last person whose hand is up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It has been a wonderful training, and I'm so happy to be part of it. I've not been involved in proposal or grants writing, but it's a profession that I'm looking forward to actually dive into. By profession, I'm currently an accountant. What I wanted to ask is in regards to project work plan. Based on what you've said, I've learned something based on some experiences, that sometimes you write your proposal and your grant proposal, and then you stated the date when it is ending and when it is starting and when it is ending, and then you have your work plan. But there are some scenarios where, for example, you submit your proposal, and then even if it goes past when you expect to, like, goes 2 months past when it's supposed to be what is starting. So my question is, it like if the grant is already been approved, is the project work plan, can it be amended, like in case because you have gone past, for example, you planned that by this time supposed to be doing this, but because the approval took long, so you are past that period. So I'm asking whether it can be amended. Thank you.
Okay, good. That is a very good point there. When you're looking at the start dates of the projects, there is proposed start date, and then there is the actual start date. So we can propose that the project starts in January, 1st of January. But then you will find processes leading to approval and signing of agreements and all that can delay a bit, right? So once there is that delay, your actual start date can change. It can move to 1st of February, or sometimes the donor will tell you, okay, you can maintain the 1st of January, but you know that actually you have started in February. So when you are doing your reporting, they will not be hard on you. So you can approach it in two ways like that. You can actually do the actual start date as different from the proposed start date. So this is okay. And then if that is the case, you can go to the work plan and readjust based on the new start date. If the new start date now or the actual start date is 1st of February, you can do your work plan in that way. I believe there won't be any issue. But if the donor is flexible and say, okay, you can still have eligible expenses from the 1st of January that you proposed earlier, it's okay. Then you can maintain the work plan, or you can still do an adjusted work plan and pick it up from there. Yeah. There is a question, Bida, from Soroba. He's asking, how do I frame the level of efforts in a scenario that we do not have active projects yet? That is right. If you do not have an active project and you are writing a proposal, this is your first or your only one, then it's most likely that the activities in your budget or items in your budget will be covered by this project only. It's the only one you have. So in that case, you don't have another project to charge 30% from, 20% from. Everything will be charged in this. Although sometimes they don't might not want you. Then now you'll need to be careful what you put there, because if you put everyone in that particular proposal, it's the only one you have. The donor might say you are too expensive, especially on the admin cost, because they don't want to cover 100% most of the times on indirect or admin related issues. Yeah, so that would be a game of numbers now. If you have only one opportunity, the only existing project, then you charge everything there, but you might want to drop some out totally, so that you have less going through that. How does the need statement differ from data revelation? Data revelation, I don't know what that is. Are you talking of maybe data analysis, or this is coming from back?
Maybe he can unmute and clarify, or maybe
yes,
he can just back. If you're there, kindly clarify what you mean by what the trainer is asking. Okay, otherwise I believe, John, you have adequately addressed all the questions asked by the trainees. We have only 2 minutes to close this session, and I will just ask you to make a final call to action as we look forward to the second day of the training tomorrow. I would like to sincerely thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you, Bida. I'm really happy to interact with everyone in this space, and looking forward to the day 2 tomorrow. Tomorrow we will not look at the same components. We'll just look at what you will do as a grant writer, what you might need to consider. So we'll look at bigger things like your strategy, the tools you will have, what a proposal development plan looks like, and maybe what skills you might want to have as you involve other people to write your proposal, and all that. So it's going to it will be tomorrow. It will be less, or it will be less of let's say talking the way I just did now, or even less of writing in terms of what I'll present tomorrow is going to be short. I'll just do like maybe a demonstration of what these things look like. All right, but thank you guys for today. We don't take it for granted that you have dedicated 2 hours of learning. We're really happy that we can collaborate in this. Let us do this. It's a way of empowering ourselves. We really don't think that somebody is coming from outside there to do this, and you don't need to spend $3,000 to get an air ticket to go to Nairobi to be taught how to write a proposal when you can do it here on Zoom for free. So let us embrace these opportunities. You can reach out also to me anytime in issues related to maybe guidance or continuous learning. But I believe this should not be the end of our discussion. Let's continue to interact. So thank you, Bida, for the opportunity. See you guys tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Enjoy.
It's a wonderful evening.